Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. If you are joining me live, Friday! Yay! If you're not and it's a different day of the week, that's okay too. A Friday will come soon. And hopefully you'll find a way to fit in some delicious tips, which I'm so excited to dive into today. Before we do all of that, let me start with my introduction. I am Ashley Koff. I'm a registered dietitian, CEO of the Better Nutrition Program. The Better Nutrition Program works with practitioners to develop better nutrition assessment tools that you can use, your patients can use. What we want to do is assess someone's current nutrition to figure out what they could be doing better and what is already better. And that's how we create personalized recommendations. And if you are watching us live, there are two amazing things that are happening today. First, you can get your questions answered by our incredible expert. Second, you have a chance. I'm going to go through this a couple times because it's not written anywhere. You have a chance to win Vandana's new book. It's currently available on Amazon. I'm so excited about it. It's delicious. It's mouth-watering. So you have a chance. So you're going to email her at vandanasheth.com. That is actually right under her name on the screen right now. So just go to that website and email her and tell her why you should win the book. And she's going to pick a winner by Sunday. So don't wait. All right. If you're not watching us live, I have something awesome to tell you too. And that is whenever you have a question, we will get back to you. I strive to get back to everyone within 48 business hours. And I reach out to our guests. So you're not going to get my answer about Indian cuisine and the health benefits of spices. You're going to get our expert answer. So without further ado, we're going to roll right into the topic at hand today. And just a reminder, these Better Nutrition expert interviews are with experts, right? And so how I define expert is somebody who has the knowledge, the science base, as well as puts it into practice. So they can help us actually do what we think and what the science has shown to be beneficial. And Vandana actually has an extensive background. I was looking at her note and she was saying, this is just so beautiful, Vandana. You said, I use your mom's wisdom and then your science-based education as a dietitian. And so that we're getting wisdom, we're getting maternal wisdom. I have a feeling we're getting multi-generational wisdom as we talk about this. So without further ado, welcome. I'm so excited to have you today.
I am thrilled to be here.
Great. And, I have all these questions. Like, I never knew, professional dancer and model. And, I love you started off in India. You said I was just surrounded, right? There's all of this. So let's go through your culinary journey and kind of how it brought you into the nutrition space for a couple of minutes. And especially, not only are you a dietitian, but you have CDE after your name, Certified Diabetic Educator. So I really want people to understand your expertise.
Thank you, Ashley. So I was born and raised in India, and I count myself to be truly privileged to have that experience because it's such an old culture with lots of wonderful traditions, and food is so integrated into life there. And it's very beautiful, spices, herbs, vibrant colors. So there's a lot going on there. The reason I got involved in this field is I was a dancer. I still am a classical Indian dancer. And I found that the food I ate really affected how I performed. And my mom was a fantastic cook. She was amazing at pulling flavors together. And growing up in India, it was something that she just did so simply. It would be whatever was in season. She'd pick that. She'd design the menu that day based on what's available. And seeing how beautifully she pulled that together was an inspiration for me. And then I loved science. And so I wanted to go into a field that used my science-based knowledge, but I did not want to be a physician. I wanted to talk about food all day long, and knowing there was a career where I could mix the two was perfect. And that's what led me to becoming a dietitian.
Oh, that's incredible. So there are a myriad of advantages to spices and to Indian cuisine. There's the whole Ayurvedic culture. We had an interview with someone talking about Ayurveda. But I want to do something a little bit different today. If we start off with the science, we can, I think a lot of people would be head nodding and like right on that part. You have this new book. So let's go ahead and show off the book. I'd love to see the book cover. And remember, if you email Vandana at vandanasheth.com, you can you can be entered to win the book. And remember too, if you guys have any questions, to share them with me now. and I will ask her. But you write on there quick and tasty. And, this culture in America, we've taken a little bit of every culture. We've got this melting pot here, and we're all looking for quick and tasty, but somehow we haven't arrived at what your mom was putting on the table and what would help us perform better, right? So I'd love to go through like a couple of your favorite like quick and tasty tips. Go ahead. You started to say something, but jump right.
No.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, yes, I truly believe that food has to be delicious and it has to be savored and it doesn't have to be complicated. So
yeah.
Often when people think about Indian food, that's a very common myth. People feel like it's so complicated or it's too many spices. I'm not sure what to do with this. That's why I wrote the book, because it doesn't have to be complicated. With just a few basic ingredients, you can mix and match and come up with these amazing taste profiles and just take a basic vegetable and just elevate that.
So let's go through that. So give me a basic vegetable that you elevate that we feel like would be crowd-pleasing to palates here in America.
Sure. And so something simple as cauliflower. Cauliflower has been pretty popular here recently because of the low carb craze. But cauliflower is a wonderful cruciferous vegetable. It's white, it's tasty, but it can be bland. So a simple way to elevate that is season it with a little olive oil or any kind of heart-healthy plant-based oil. Add some cumin seeds, and you want to wait till the cumin seeds sizzle. Just turn slightly darker brown, not black. If it's black, it's going to ruin the taste. So just get it up to a little toasted brown, and then add your cauliflower and add some turmeric to add that golden hue. If you like spicy, add some red chili powder. If you don't feel like that heat, skip it. Add some garam masala. And garam masala is a really nice mix of warming spices. And in my book, I have a specific recipe for a quick garam masala. It's got cloves and cinnamon and nutmeg and cardamom, really aromatic, fragrant flavors. You just sprinkle a little bit of that. You can even put it in the oven. You don't have to cook it on the stove. In 15 minutes, you have this beautiful golden-hued, aromatic, fragrant cauliflower.
Oh, it sounds so delicious. And what I love about that too is it's actually pretty inexpensive. So cauliflower, I use the frozen. So there may need to be a step in there, I guess, if I'm adding it in with the oil and the spice to first defrost it and maybe have a little bit of the water run off. Yeah. Exactly. But I think that is just, and so you could make that in bulk and you then have that option. And from a cost standpoint, deliciously easy and doable financially. So I love that. Okay. So garam masala, I want to jump in on because, we have people now, we have chai tea available to us, quote unquote chai tea everywhere. I actually just had the privilege, oh my gosh, my friend blew my socks off. I had coconut ice cream that was garam masala flavored, and she just blended this all together and put it in the ice cream maker, and it's like next level to me. Tell me a little bit about how you can put that blend together, and like what are some of the different applications for it? We talked about cauliflower. I just mentioned ice cream. What else could we use it for? Yeah.
You could add that in any kind of protein dish you like. So it goes really well to beans or lentils or your soups. Say you're making a basic lentil soup, just add a little garam masala and that adds that exotic flavor. Or if you're making a creamed zucchini soup, like it's summer, you're going to get all these squashes. It's so easy to add that Indian flavor by just a little touch of garam masala. You could even add it to your pasta. You could add it to your casserole dishes. And it just adds the sneaky, subtle spice that just is magical in your mouth.
Now, you were saying you were so lucky to grow up with a mom who loved to cook and who cooked amazing. But, I think a lot of the question marks that we hear or the challenges are my kids going to like it? So when you're thinking about the young mouths here in America that might have grown up with exposure to natural flavors in products as opposed to the spices, what do you recommend for the introduction of those? Again, you've got quick and tasty recipes. How do we introduce them to young mouths?
It's all about exposure, right? So you want to try and find things that they are familiar with. Always start with something they're familiar with and provide them with this alternative side by side. And let them see you role model and actually enjoy that flavor. because often kids do emulate what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they see you really thoroughly enjoy it, it's surprising how willing they are. And actually, young kids and even in general, the population here is really evolved in terms of the palate.
Mm-hmm.
We are finding so many more global flavors, not just in specific homes or restaurants, but all across the board, even in restaurants, in grocery stores. So kids are exposed, and they're also watching these shows on TV. The cooking shows are very popular with the younger generation, with Master Chef and
Mm-hmm.
Master Chef Junior. So when kids are excited about food and flavors, I think they're going to be more likely to try it.
Mm. We did some spiced carrots with the roasted carrots, and they were such a hit with a group of kids that we had over. And I was like, it's like, and that some of the parents were even raising their eyebrow. And I said, that's the problem. Like, as parents, a lot of parents today didn't grow up and aren't that adventurous with their spices, but the kids are open to it. So I think even if you're not going to try it, you really have to make sure your face doesn't go like, oh, you know, doesn't
Crazy.
that
Yes.
eyebrow. And just, I want to interject for a moment, you guys. So Vandana, we're talking about culinary Indian cuisine and the health benefits. And she shared early on, she was a professional dancer, still is, dances, and then also a model. And so much of the cuisine that we're talking about that is quick and tasty, which is her new book, The Indian Table, which you can get on Amazon, but you could also win it. So I just want to make sure that all of you that are watching right now, you can give me a thumbs up or you claps or you can say yes. But as you're doing that, I will send you over a note, just a reminder to make sure you email her at Vandana Sheth at her website so that you can be entered to win this cookbook, because she's going to give away one copy, I think by Sunday, which is great. So let's talk about performance. You know, one of the interesting things, so I'm a massive basketball fan, and congratulations to the Raptors, but also heartbreaking to watch, not just this year, but years past, but very recent, these players that have gone out with major injuries. And so one of the things that we know about performance is the role of inflammation. When you're training, just how hard that can be on your body, the stress that it produces. We actually had a great interview with Kelly Jones, another dietitian, just a day or two ago about strength training and the nutrition that we need for it, why we need carbohydrates, etc. But one of the interesting things is that several of the spices in the Indian cuisine are known for helping to promote a healthy inflammatory response. So for everyone who has a child or themselves, you're hitting it hard, you're wanting to get in those workouts, or maybe you're performing at even an elevated level, I think we need to learn more about getting those in. So you know which ones I'm talking about. I'd love to hear from you, just some ideas for getting those in.
So the biggest one would be turmeric. Mm-hmm. So often people think of curry powder as, something that's available. Really, in an Indian home, there's nothing called curry powder. We have individual spices, and turmeric is something that's very popular. It's very common. What's interesting about turmeric is that it has this chemical compound called curcumin, and that's the key anti-inflammatory compound. And lots of research has gone into it. We're still looking at studies, but it has been used for its medicinal purposes for many, many generations in India. And it's used for if you have a cold or a cough. My mom would make turmeric milk. And growing up, I really didn't care for it because it was just milk with turmeric and a little ghee. It was disgusting. Mm-hmm. And so in my book, I've revamped it to a version that I actually look forward to drinking. Great. So I've added some cinnamon and a little other spices, but the key with turmeric is that you do need to add some black pepper because that significantly enhances the absorption of that curcumin that's in the turmeric. So often clients will ask me, I don't know how to cook with turmeric. Can I just use the supplement? You can, but I really come from the thought that there's nothing like food. So if we can get the nutrients from food, our body knows how to absorb it and retain it better. So it's very simple. You can just add it to, like we talked about, the cauliflower. You can even add it to your rice. It adds a beautiful golden hue. You could add it to your eggs if you like eggs, and it enhances the yellow that's in the eggs. So there are many ways to add turmeric. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it is definitely one of those spices that's been known for anti-inflammation.
I love it. And, one of the things for me personally as a dietitian, this is like a true confession. I did the rainbow evaluation that we have when I was so excited to have it. And I was like, oh, I bet I rock it. I'm like, I get in a rainbow, including my, white and brown, which we add to the rainbow in nutrition. But you know what? I don't get an orange. And for whatever reason, like I'll eat sweet potato if it's available or carrots, but it's not something I'm getting in consistently. And I care so much about obviously my skin, but also my eyes and, just these carotenoids. Well, it was amazing for me to discover turmeric because just such a small amount is going to help me get in those nutrients. And so it's one of the things I love about spices is their ability to help us get in those colors, from nature. Yeah. You mentioned cinnamon, which is a perfect segue in to you are a certified diabetes educator. And I think the information that's out, the majority of information that's out there about how people should be eating to, if you're pre-diabetic, to prevent getting diabetes, and also even if you have diabetes, is just really bad information because it just focuses on carbohydrates. And I love talking about spices. So I would love to ask you, when you think about how could food be delicious and quick and tasty, right? In helping somebody who is trying to work on their blood sugar, what comes to mind for you?
So one of the key is, again, food has to be flavorful and it has to be satisfying. And if we make food flavorful and satisfying, you don't need a lot of it. So when we add spices and herbs to flavor up the food, it really enhances that food choice that you make. So while you're cutting back on carbs, yes, that is important. It's more really the consistent carbs that makes a difference for your blood sugar. It's important to add spices. Like we know cinnamon has been looked at for its power to really make your insulin more sensitive. And that is so easy to do in your bowl of oatmeal or in your smoothie or even in your coffee or tea. Just sprinkle some cinnamon in there and that can potentially make your insulin more sensitive and help potentially lower your blood sugar. And it adds a nice aroma and taste as well. So that is something I would recommend. It's also, there are some vegetables and within the Indian profile, Indian diet, there's fenugreek, which has been looked at, and it's very popular in Indian cooking. So you can either use fenugreek seeds, you can find them, they're golden, little golden oval shaped seeds, or you can buy fenugreek leaves in the Indian grocery store. And this has been found to actually have a positive effect on your blood sugar. So if you're open to it, you want to try it, that's something I'd suggest doing. The other one is bitter melon. That's a vegetable that's popular in Indian cooking. You can find it at an Asian market or ethnic market, and you can cook it just like anything else, any other vegetable. But if you want to get rid of some of that bitterness, what you want to do is cut it up, soak it in water, and for just 10-15 minutes and strain that. That way you reduce some of that bitterness in that vegetable. That's also been looked at as helping with your blood sugar.
I love it. And so one of the other things that I think we're all challenged with, I think we can all do better in terms of our frequency of carbohydrate intake, how much we're having at one time, getting these spices in to help promote healthy blood sugar, whether ours is elevated or not. But one of the hard parts is we just love sweets. Like many people just, and it might be in a time of day, or I notice if I've had coffee or I've had something that's maybe more salty that I'm craving the sweet. So how in Indian cuisine do you celebrate sweetness as the deliciousness, but not have it be an overdoing?
So desserts are a big part of the Indian culture because, and interestingly, India has a very diverse food culture as well. Just like the Mediterranean, there's no one Indian diet. There are so many different flavors. There are some commonalities. So most Indian homes will have a lot of whole grains, will have a lot of beans and lentils, vegetables and fruits, spices, and some fermented foods. Those are key components. But when it comes to desserts, it's not something you do on a daily basis. It was something that was celebrated as a treat, as a special occasion. So then you can have those indulgences, but it's in the right quantity at the right time. So if someone here is got the sweet craving, usually I always suggest that let's look at your day. Let's make sure you're not actually physiologically hungry. Let's make sure you have not really deprived yourself of all the carbs. So your body's bringing this big light into your brain saying, give me food, give me food, give me quick acting sugar. So we want to make sure that you're actually eating regularly throughout the day. And at the same time, if you have a craving, let's go ahead and enjoy it, but let's be mindful. So I walk my clients through a mindful eating exercise. I have them bring their favorite dessert to my office and we walk through it. And it's amazing how little you need if you really use all your senses.
Wow. And that is a great reminder too, because Vandana sees clients virtually and also in person, but I'm already like, I want to come so that I can have a dessert, eat the dessert with you and go through mindful eating on that part. And a reminder too, to be entered to win a copy of her book, please send her an email through vandanasheth.com. It's right under her name right now. You can go ahead and send an email through the website and she'll pick a winner on Sunday, and tell her why you would love her book, what you would do with it, why you're excited about it. And what we're talking about right now is how can you use Indian cuisine? How can you make it quick and tasty? So I think one of the things that we've done here in the States is we have a lot of things that are like ready to eat right in the moment. And that quickness we feel like is, gosh, I don't have to, think ahead or plan, on that part. But often that's at a compromise. There are artificial things in there, or even in the non-artificial, there are binders and fillers that wouldn't be the same. So I'd love for some of your prep tips, so one of the reasons I think people maybe don't consume lentils as often as they think, do I have time to cook lentils, right? So what are some, like if you're plotting out for a client for the week, how to have available, whether it's lentils, the spices and all these things, how do you sort of help them along that path?
Sure. So as you mentioned, planning is the key. Mm-hmm. So ideally, you want to set aside just 1 or 2 hours a week and start mapping out. And it doesn't have to be complete meals that you prep, but if you can have ingredients ready, so make a couple different types of grains. It could be brown rice, it could be quinoa. And if you want to try an Indian bread like roti, it's pretty easy and it's fun. If you have young kids, they love getting that dough in and flattening and making their own. It's not that complicated. So that would be something I'd suggest. Second is any of your produce, you can go ahead and prep it, have it ready to go. Then it's easy to come home and just saute it or stir fry it. Mm-hmm. That's easy. As far as beans and lentils go, I absolutely think it's a good idea to prep them in bulk. That way you can cook once and then eat multiple times throughout the week. Mm-hmm. Another option is I'm okay with using canned products. It's okay to have canned beans or canned tomato sauce. It's absolutely fine. In fact, the canned tomato sauce, we know that tomato sauce, the lycopene level is much higher in terms of absorption. As far as canned beans and lentils, just rinse it out thoroughly. Rinse it out 3 to 4 times, and you can significantly decrease that sodium that's in there. And that speeds up that protein choice. Mm-hmm. As far as vegetables go, frozen is just as good. So my freezer is loaded with prepped cauliflower and broccoli and asparagus and bell peppers. It simplifies life. And so you don't have to beat yourself up for not going to the store and getting fresh produce and cooking it. So those are some easy ways I would suggest prepping and planning your meals.
Mm-hmm. You talk about roti, and I think everyone loves a reason to enjoy some bread. So let's talk about some of the delicious ways, like what could you enjoy roti with and how do you use it and what is a serving of roti? So let's talk that part through.
And so again, as I mentioned, India is a very diverse country. So I'm just talking about the way I was raised.
Sure.
And so roti at my home, it's made with whole wheat flour. My mom would literally, and I have a recipe in the book,
right.
But you literally take whole wheat flour, add water, make it into dough, roll it into little balls, flatten it up, and you cook it on a pan. Mm-hmm. And that roti can be enjoyed with any vegetable choice. It can be enjoyed with any lentil or beans. Mm-hmm. I often use it almost like a wrap in place of a tortilla. Mm-hmm. And you can almost make like a burrito. Mm. So there are so many fun ways to do it. And as a little kid, one of my favorite things was when we were done with the meal, to end the meal on a sweet note, my mom would take a roti, she would spread a little ghee and sprinkle some brown sugar and roll it up. And that was dessert.
That sounds so delicious. I love that. You mentioned ghee, and I think that's a really interesting one, especially for people who are lactose intolerant or trying to figure out, like, I may not do so well with dairy. So explain to people what ghee is and how you choose to use it.
Yes. So ghee is basically clarified butter. You literally take butter and you heat it to a certain point where you get all the solids in the bottom, you strain it, and it becomes this beautiful amber-colored liquid. And that is something that's used in Indian cooking. It's also used in Indian religious ceremonies. It's considered to be very auspicious. So I usually just use it occasionally as an indulgence. I drizzle it on things because it has a nutty aroma. So if you are lactose intolerant, There's a chance you can handle it, not guarantee. Depends on how severe your lactose intolerance is.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I love that you're saying you use it, because I feel that use it as an indulgence, because I feel when you know, in ye old Google, when we're going around and looking at things, there's just this like, oh, ghee, like you should ghee everything. Like now people are replacing olive oil and some of the others. So tell us a little bit about what you would use as far as oils. Like how do you factor in, you know, whether it's avocado or walnut oil or olive oil? What sort of oils do is in your quick and tasty at the Indian table?
So I use canola oil just because I think it can handle the high heat and fast. It's plant-based, it's heart healthy. So I use canola oil for my basic cooking. I use extra virgin olive oil if I'm drizzling on things. I use avocado oil, sometimes as an alternative to canola oil. So it just depends on what works for you. With my clients, I always say that it's what works for you. But in general, go for a heart healthy plant-based oil. Depending on the heat profile, you want to choose one that can handle the heat.
I love
yeah.
And you know what, I think another part, so my experience with people as it relates to Indian food is they either love it. So I happen to live in DC above the restaurant Rasika. I was the luckiest girl in the entire world, because even if I had a little bit of a cough, they would bring something up for me, or, you know, this whole thing. And so I just feel, and to your point, like there are so many different types of Indian cuisine. And so just being able to explore those. But I've had people say to me, Indian food, it really didn't sit well with me, or I was out and I had Indian food. And so tell us a little bit about, unfortunately, what's been done to Indian food here in the States, where you go out and what isn't really maybe better for you in that space.
Yes, and that's a very common perception or misperception sometimes, that Indian food can be very unhealthy and greasy and high in fat. That's not really the homemade version of food. So what you're having in restaurants often is made with heavy cream and half. If you talk to someone about Indian food, oh, I love chicken tikka masala, or I love the paneer makhani. That means it's loaded with butter. And so it's high in fat. It's also high in sodium. Whereas when you make it at home, it doesn't have to be so high in fat. And my book really doesn't have recipes like that. Not that there's anything wrong with those recipes, but you don't want to make that your choice on a regular basis. It's an occasional treat, sure, because it's too rich. Our body can't handle it. In general, you want to go for more vegetable-based food choices. So at a restaurant, you may find bhindi, which is okra. You may find saag paneer or palak paneer, which is a very popular dish. It's made with spinach that's creamed, and then it's got homemade cheese cubes. I make it with tofu because it's simpler and it's vegan that way when I choose to go plant-based completely. So you can find aloo gobi, which is another popular dish. It's cauliflower and potatoes. So there are many vegetable options at an Indian restaurant. If you go to a restaurant, look and see if they have roti that's made with whole wheat flour. They might actually surprise you and have other millets depending on the restaurant. There are buckwheat rotis. There's rotis made with other millets. So that may be something different. Traditionally, of course, naan is a very popular dish. And if that's what you want to enjoy, go for it. But just know that it's pretty refined. It is tasty, but it's refined. So you don't want to have large volumes of it. Same thing with rice. Often they use white rice in restaurants, and basmati rice is actually pretty good. It has been looked at as far as health benefits go to not spike your blood sugar as much. And something interesting, just on a tangent, because we talked about rice, is that there's some studies that show that the resistant starch in rice builds up. So once you cook rice, if you actually set it aside and have it later at another meal, the resistant starch builds up, so your glycemic index it doesn't spike up as much.
I have a recipe that when a friend of mine shared that with me, just about the resistant starch and the prebiotic component for a rice pudding. So I'll actually I like to play with the colored, right? You know, the black rice and some of these. But I'll make that and then have it refrigerated and have it the next day with like some coconut milk or that kind of thing as almost a rice breakfast pudding with some nuts and seeds. I love that. That to me
sounds amazing.
And especially because I feel like I love oats, but we don't always have to do oats for the resistant starch. I think that this piece you're sharing about the rice is so important. One of the other pieces for me personally, as somebody who has professionally has focused on, and personally really my early days on digestive health, is that there are so many seeds in particular, but so many ways to use the Indian cuisine and these spices to actually help promote healthy digestion. And the interesting observation that I have from people when I bring up Indian food or we'll talk about beans is they think, uh-oh, that's going to be bloating or that's not going to work for my digestion. So talk a little bit about just the culinary history and what are some of your quick and tasty ideas for having it also be good for your digestion.
Yes. And so beans and lentils are powerhouses of nutrition, right? They are loaded with protein, but also loaded with fiber. And they have these positive effects on our GI system and blood sugar, many, many benefits. With beans and lentils, the key is to soak it if you can. Soak it overnight and then cook it either in a pressure cooker, ideally, or an Instant Pot. Basically, that's like a pressure cooker so that you can reduce some of those fibers to a process where your body doesn't have that bloating or other sensations. It's when you don't soak it and cook it appropriately that you might have more of the side effects that people are complaining about. You can always use canned beans like we discussed, but just make sure you rinse it thoroughly. But if you have a chance, nothing like soaking your beans overnight and then cooking it the next day.
Yeah. And spices, I think I've used fennel seeds. There's some seeds that are done like after the meal to help with any big acid. Okay, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I think they're great.
So that's perfect. You sound like you're pretty familiar with Indian cuisine.
It's one of my
traditions.
As an adult, it's that and mushrooms, things that I avoided vehemently when I was younger. And now, like, if I could have Indian food, especially prepared for me, like I would all the time. I mean, I love it. Yeah, it's so healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And so traditionally, after an Indian meal, you usually have something called mukwas, or it's called variali. And that's just certain Indian names for fennel seeds. And it has other spices mixed with sometimes cloves, sometimes some coconut that's shredded. And there's something else called betel leaf. It's actually a leaf in which they would put these things and they would roll it up and you would actually have it as an indulgent after meal snack, or I don't even know, kind of like a breath mint, but it's an Indian version.
Yeah.
So it refreshes your mouth and actually helps with digestion.
Oh, wow.
And so that's called pan.
Okay.
So if you're at an Indian restaurant, sometimes you see something called pan. That's that betel leaf with the fennel seeds. And there's actually sometimes rose spread made with rose petals and sweetened.
I love that. Oh gosh, there's so many. Okay, to close out, because I literally, like, my mouth is watering. I've got to go make this cauliflower recipe because it's exactly what I want. So what would you, if you had to pick one or two favorite recipes or the reason you think that somebody should just grab your book right now because you know this is going to make a difference for them, what would those two be?
Oh, that's tough. I would say the chai, because everyone loves chai and people don't realize how simple it can be, but how amazing it can be. So I have a basic recipe for chai masala that you just have the spice mix and then you can add it to your chai anywhere you go. That elevates that. The other one I would say is any of my bean and lentil recipes, because often people get confused about how to cook with them. So I have a whole chapter on beneficial beans and lentils. And my personal favorite, the one that's been a big hit with everyone at home is I've made this dish called the Power Bowl. And it's this roasted cauliflower dish with garbanzo beans. And I put it over a bed of greens. And the inspiration came to me when I was in my backyard one day in a summer evening, came back from work. My husband was pouring some wine. I just wanted to unwind. So I put this together on our backyard stove. And that was the inspiration for that meal.
Oh, that's incredible. Okay, so you can get that and a bunch of other quick and tasty recipes in the Indian Table, which is now available on Amazon, which I'm going to include the notes in the show notes. But you could also win it. So if you're watching this, it's Friday, June 14th. Make sure that you send Vandana an email at vandanasheth.com. You've got it here. Send her an email and tell her why you want this book, and you'll be entered to win. And she's going to pick a winner on Sunday. So don't let the weekend go by without emailing. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you're watching this after the fact, you could still win if it's before Sunday the 16th and you want to send her a note. But also, if you liked what you saw, please give us a thumbs up. And most importantly, whether you're watching this on Facebook or you're watching this on YouTube, if any of this information you found delicious or helpful or new, please share it with someone. You know, my goal with bringing these better nutrition expert interviews is, first of all, super selfish. I learn something every single time from these experts. I learned a bunch of things today from Vandana. And second of all, this is really an opportunity to share better nutrition information. And I think we're lacking in that. And so I think that this is a great way to help other people. Maybe they've been thinking about how could I incorporate more spices to help my blood sugar, but don't have quick and easy ways to do that. You can now share that with them when you share this video. So Vandana, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I'm really excited about your book and just to have you here as our expert. So thank you for joining us.
Hey, Ashley, thank you. And I just want to let anyone know that if you send me an email, I'm happy to send you a sneak peek, a bonus with a couple recipes from my book.
Great. Oh, I really want that Power Bowl recipe. So my feeling is you should definitely, at least with a photo, put it on social media. If you tag us at the Better Nutrition Program, I'll go ahead and share that so that people can make sure that they see that they would get that delicious recipe in the book. I think you're right. I think we need better education on how to make it easy to enjoy beans. And I think a lot of that comes with what do you have with it, so you don't feel like you're just having a load of beans, right? I think that's so much, that doesn't end up feeling delicious. Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Ashley.
you.
It was a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.